All right, let's dive in. For a long time, we've thought of AI as the super powerful calculator, right? Just crunching numbers and finding patterns. But today, we're looking at something way more interesting. We're on the cutting edge, where researchers are trying to teach machines to actually understand our world, with all the nuance, the creativity, and the sense of truth that we humans just take for granted. So, how on earth are they doing it? And really, this is the big question, isn't it? It's what keeps AI developers up at night. It's not just about processing information anymore. The real holy grail is genuine comprehension. Can a machine ever get past the what and start to understand the why and the how? Well, that's exactly what we're here to explore. So, how do you teach a machine to see the world less like a spreadsheet and more like a story? We're going to break it down by looking at three totally fascinating case studies, and each one tackles a different, very human piece of the puzzle. This slide really lays out the whole journey for us. We're talking about a massive shift. For decades, AI has been a rock star at processing keywords, sifting through data, and spotting patterns. But the new frontier, what we're looking at today, is getting it to handle things like nuance, to recognize a spark of creativity, and even to get a feel for the concept of truth. Okay, first up, how does an AI even perceive the world? We humans do this without thinking, right? We combine what we see, what we read, and what we hear to get the full story. Well, researchers are teaching AI to do the same thing by mashing up different kinds of data, like text, images, and user info, to build a much richer, more complete picture of what's going on. The fancy term for this is multimodal learning. It's all about building models that don't have tunnel vision. So, for example, instead of just reading the text of a product review, a multimodal AI would look at the text, the star rating, and a photo the customer uploaded, all at the same time. The big question for the researchers was, what's the best way to fuse all these signals together? It turns out they tested three main strategies. With early fusion, you basically throw all your data, text, images, the whole shebang, into one big pot right at the start. With late fusion, you let the AI analyze each data type on its own and only bring the final conclusions together at the end. And then there's Sketch, which is a pretty clever middle ground where you first summarize each type of data into a simple, common format before the AI starts to learn. And what they found is that there's no single silver bullet. The best method really depends on your data. So the study gives us this handy playbook. They say go with late fusion if one of your data sources is already a powerhouse on its own, like text. But if your data only makes sense when you look at it all together, like a picture and a question about that picture, then early fusion is your best bet. And Sketch, that's the hero for giant systems where you have to be super careful with memory. Okay, so AI can learn to combine its senses. That's a huge step. But can it move beyond just perception to understand something way more abstract? Something like creativity. I mean, how do you even begin to teach a machine what a creative question looks like? Well, researchers found a pretty brilliant way to measure it. They looked to this classic framework from education called Bloom's taxonomy. You can think of it like a ladder of thinking. The bottom rungs are for simple things, like just recalling a fact. But as you climb higher, you get to more complex skills, like analysis, and at the very top, evaluation. The bet was that the most creative questions would live on those top rungs of the ladder. And this is where it gets really cool. The AI started to link specific words to each level of the ladder. Simple knowledge questions down at the bottom often use words like what or who. But way up at the top, the evaluation questions, they use words like why and justification. The AI actually learned to spot these linguistic clues to figure out a question's creative potential. It's like we're seeing the building blocks of creativity itself. And that brings us to our final and maybe most mind-bending example. We've gone from sensing the world to judging creativity. But now, can an AI understand the super subtle ways our language implies truth? This is all about learning to read between the lines. The key concept here is something linguists call factivity. Now, I know it sounds super academic, but stick with me, because it's an idea you use constantly without even realizing it. Basically, certain verbs in a sentence automatically tell you that another part of that sentence is a fact. Let me just show you what I mean. Check out this example. If I say, she regretted that it rained, that sentence automatically assumes it is a fact that it rained. You can't regret something that didn't actually happen. So the verb regretted is factive. But if I say, she thought that it rained, well, now there's no guarantee. Maybe it rained, maybe it didn't. Her thought could be totally wrong. The verb thought is non-factive.
Now, you and I get this instantly, but for an AI, that subtle difference is a massive challenge.
And here is the most astonishing result from the whole thing. Researchers tested how well AI models, expert linguists, and just regular people could pick up on these factive verbs. The experts, as you'd expect, pretty much nailed it. But get this, the AI models scored about 91% accuracy. And the non-expert humans? We only agreed with the experts 63% of the time. Let that sink in for a second. In this one very specific, very nuanced language task, the machine actually understood the concept better than the average person. Wild. So, after all that, what does it all mean? What's the big takeaway? We've seen an AI learn to combine its senses, to decode creativity, and even to get a handle on truth in our language. Let's pull all these threads together. It really feels like the path to a deeper AI understanding is getting clearer. These studies show that we can build machines that see a much more complete version of our world. We can give them the tools to understand abstract ideas like creativity. And in some very specific areas of language, they might even become superhuman. These aren't just small tweaks. These feel like fundamental leaps toward a totally new kind of intelligence. And that leaves us with this final, really critical question to chew on. We're building machines that are moving beyond just processing information and into the realm of real understanding. So as they get better and better at mastering the subtle, complex, and deeply human art of nuance, it's really not a question of if our world will change anymore, but a question of how. Thanks for diving in with us.